From the Dallas On Air studios in beautiful Dallas, Texas, this is Fulfillment right here on DallasOnAir.com. And now here's your host, Kazak. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, it's a little different today. My name is Kazak. I am your host for Fulfillment, the show where we talk about movies, where we talk about film. Do you like film? Do you like cinema? Do you like all the good stuff that comes from the movie experience? Do you even like how your feet stick to the floor when you go into that nasty old theater? Well, of course you do, because you love film. This is your show. This is the place for you. All right, so let me go ahead and get into this. First of all, normally, like I said, the Vega Bomber is usually bringing you in, introducing you, welcoming you. He's not here today. He's celebrating the holiday with his family, so it looks like it's going to be me. And today, we're going to have a little fun because we're going to do something a little different. Today, we are going to talk. It's Easter weekend, and we're going to talk zombie movies. It's Easter weekend, we're going to talk zombie movies. So with me today, of course, I had to bring in our resident horror expert, our friend, our guy, the man behind the Keats Comics counter. Please welcome Horror Mike.
Hey, how's it going, guys? It is such a fun topic. I got the message about it. I was like, you know what? I think I can make this work.
We absolutely had to make it work. I like I said, this. I know it's in bad taste, and we'll keep the jokes off to the side. Yep. Because, like I said, I love zombie movies. I do love horror films, and like I said, I do want to kind of get into this. So today we're going to get into what we love about the genre, what we love about the visuals and things like that, and all that good stuff. We'll get into that. But first, we do need to go ahead and get into our the way we usually start the show, and that is with our Just Seen It. We're going to talk about some of the stuff that we've been watching, some of the stuff that looks good to us. We'll get into that here. So let me run that little wiki and do the Just Seen It title card. There it is. So we'll go ahead and start with Mike. Hey, Mike, what have you seen?
Okay, a lot of it was just me getting caught up on some older shows, things that we are mutual fans of, like Disenchantment. Yeah. Just a lot of shows finishing up. There's so much to watch. Oh, my gosh. But
we're definitely into that dead time where there's nothing on like television so far, so it's a good time to get caught up. There's nothing really out there in the theaters, right? So
there's nothing really out there. You've got, in terms of shows, at least for me, I'm waiting till Stranger Things drops. Yeah. So that's when I revert to my tried and true horror. Oh my goodness, true crime documentary. I love listening to real horror. I watch so many horror movies. I almost think I'm desensitized to monsters and gore. What gets under my skin is true crime, because no, this actually happened. There's no actors. There's no script here. And this one's one of the worst. It's a great, well produced documentary. But this is about a historical figure in British television named Jimmy Savile. The name of it is called Jimmy Savile: A British Horror Story. And this is 2022 Netflix 2-part docuseries.
Mike, pull that mic a little closer to you.
Yeah. This is a 2022 Netflix docuseries. And what makes this so creepy or kind of so scary is that this guy was a philanthropist. He gave so much to the UK or in terms of raising money. There are people, and they touch on this in the documentary, that really kind of got him on his skin, who were just like, I would not be alive here today had he not raised literal millions of dollars for the hospital I was in. And it turns out this scumbag was using it to, get to children. I'll let your mind fill in the blanks, but it's a really powerful documentary about how a lot of people can turn a blind eye when they think there's a greater good. And from what I've been told, man, like, this guy is persona non grata in the UK. Like, you don't even mention this guy's name. They're trying to basically erase the history books of this dude. Yeah. It was enthralling. I was really well done. But to be fair, Netflix has gotten to a point where they've really nailed how to do a docu-series, or at least a true crime documentary. And just the usual. I tend to work or do other stuff while I'm listening to it, but I found myself several times just staring like, my God, how did this go on so long? So, yeah.
It is a really frightening story. I have this in my Netflix queue. I don't know if I want to see it, because that is just one of those things that really gets under your skin. Yep. The fact that this guy was such a trusted figure, and then just betraying that trust and seeing just the horror it leaves in its path. Because I mean, he was just he was a serial pedophile.
And you know what the worst part is, and this is why I kind of got it. Because they showed this guy, he was charismatic, he talked, he made jokes and stuff. He was legitimately funny. I can see how he could get this far if you trust it. Oh, this is kind of like an almost Jim Carrey type guy. He's very quick witted. And Johnny Carson, he reminded not Jim Carrey, Johnny Carson. He reminded me of Johnny Carson with his quick wit. And I was like, hey, that was actually a pretty funny joke, but it's just like, my God, this is. It's bad, especially when you know what happened.
It's a real statement on the cult of personality, just how he was able to get away with it for so long and what he was able to do. Because on the one side he's doing so much good, and on the other side there's just so much evil in there.
Yeah, it's one thing if it's somebody who had like information on people, but people look the other way because people were literally alive thanks to him.
Yeah,
it's a very it's a coffee conversation. Like it's definitely got a spot conversation. Obviously, what he did was wrong, but it was very shocking to just see people who are just like, I just don't like talking about him because like there's a lady, I don't know what disease she had, but she's in a wheelchair. She's like, I wouldn't be alive without him, so I just don't discuss it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a very sobering. That's the problem with true crime. I watch horror movies where 1,000 people get like eviscerated by monsters or something like that. But I watch one true crime, I'm kind of down for the rest of the day.
I mean, we as horror fans, we're sensitive to it, but we get so desensitized to it when we see so much of it. It's not that it loses its strength; it's that it kind of raises the bar. But then we get those little reminders of. When we see and experience something really terrible, really horrible through the eyes of someone else, it really kind of hits home, and we look at it with that same kind of morbid fascination, but a different kind of morbid fascination because this is real, this hurts, this is it's an understanding of the human condition that we as horror fans kind of get into. Because, it's not necessarily that we have a twisted sense of humor, it's just that we look at it differently because we see it through a different lens.
That's what I was trying to tell people. Like, I was, with horror fans, and kind of the stereotype is that, we just want mindless, like, blood and gore. So I'm like, not really.
It's the horror. It's the human element.
It's the human. That's absolutely the core, at least in my opinion, of horror. That's definitely a conversation for top horror movies. But the top horror movies always have the human element. And I think that's what always gets under my skin with these kind of documentaries, because it's inhuman. It's just that I can more reasonably buy a xenomorph coming through and taking out an entire crew in the Nostromo's, but I can't understand why someone would spend probably multiple millions of dollars to do what this guy did. Insanity.
All right, so for me, first off, I do need to give a shout out to Carlos Salinas, the Film Samurai, for recommending X. X was fantastic. Have you seen this yet?
Yes. Okay, so I did watch. I watched X, and actually, what we brought up, I loved 90% of it, and it came down to I was like, I didn't quite get the full motivations of the antagonist. And I'm not sure, without going to heavy spoilers, there is an after credit scene, so be sure if you see it. And I do recommend this movie. It is a definite recommend. There's an after credit scene, and that seemingly is setting up a prequel.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was a fake trailer or not.
No, it's in the works. It is in the works. It's coming down.
Okay, so if this movie happens, I ended up liking this movie. I really overall love it. The cinematography on this thing is insane. It is great little movie.
It's such a wonderful throwback to horror in 1979, the exploitation cinema, the grindcore cinema. It is absolutely just a fantastic take on it. Ty West, chef's kiss. It is just beautiful.
Yeah, no, this thing is a love letter. So you got me to that 95% then, because I didn't know if that was real or not. I couldn't find any release date or anything about it.
It's coming. It's on the way. They filmed the two movies in concert with each other. That's why all the shut-ups, all the setups and that you see in that post-credit scene are very similar to the movie. So we're in.
Now you know who I absolutely adored? Who is the main actress?
Mia Goth.
Mia Goth. She pulls double duty as the antagonist and the last girl.
Yep.
And I didn't realize that until about halfway through. I was like, wait a minute. I don't think that's an actual old lady. I think that's the same. Holy crap. Yeah. just a love letter to. I want to say. Now I'm usually pretty bad with eras. Late '70s, early '80s style slasher.
Yeah, we're definitely getting into that Texas Chainsaw Massacre style of film. And if you're a fan of that kind of horror, that late '70s, right before we get into the VHS and digital and things like that, if you're into that, just dirty, grimy film, it's great.
Yes. And I guess we should. The quick summary is. A group of entrepreneurs, as they call themselves, decide to shoot a porno, and they rent out a small farmhouse from an elderly couple, which unfortunately this elderly couple has some nefarious plans and just kind of start snowballing through this little these entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And since you did clarify, that was one thing I did. I want to say that what is the problem is not with the movie itself, it's the marketing. I wish it was a little bit more upfront about that because I didn't quite get it. And then the quick Google search, which normally would answer my questions, didn't quite do it. I guess I would have had to deep dive maybe a few more websites now.
I go ahead and get a little more on that, Mike. I wasn't offended by it because, number one, I didn't want to have any expectations going into this. I didn't want, and it doesn't. The marketing doesn't give you anything to really go on. You just kind of hear it word of mouth, which is exactly how those films grew in their popularity. So it's a very clever nod to the way that those films were marketed and structured and things like that. So going in without expectations and seeing the film for exactly what it is, an ode to grindcore cinema, it's fantastic.
And that's what I'm going to say. I'm like 90% with you. Because I went in also with zero expectations and was really enjoying it. But I guess because that wasn't common for the movies of that era to kind of have another movie without at least saying, something part one or something part two. That's what it kind of reminded me. Oh, wait, this is a modern movie for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I want to stress, if you're a horror fan, this is a really kind of a modern must-see. This is legit.
And it is absolutely a return to form for Ty West, just because the man knocks out the stuff. If you've seen House of the Dead, if you've seen The Innkeepers, this is one you definitely have to check out for any horror fan.
I did not know he did The Innkeepers. Boy, that's another one. Boy, you don't hear talked about as much in the conversation. I remember when that came out, it was a mega hit.
Yeah. Innkeepers is absolutely terrific. Again, Ty definitely knows how to capture mood. He knows how to capture form. He knows how to capture that weird kind of genre format on screen. Yeah. It's very much the Quentin Tarantino sense of filmmaking, and the fact that it's not that he's making an original film, but he is. It's that he's stealing from great masters and making that his own. So, because good artists borrow, great artists steal, and Ty really knows how to pick and choose how to set up those shots. So,
and was this A24?
Yes.
Man, talk about just. It's funny when you think about like the horror houses. You've got Blumhouse and freaking A24. A24 is just consistent. I'm really looking forward to seeing that movie Men. Look up the trailer for it. The genius of it, to your point, they don't really give you much, but it kind of has that Innkeeper style tension to it.
Okay.
I'm really paying attention to everything A24 has been doing, especially with movies like X that are really steamrolling away. Yeah.
The other thing that I got to get into, because I got to recommend this to our audience, absolutely, and that is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Holy cow. This is not just a film. This is an experience. It is truly an assault on the senses going to see this film. Shot by a video crew called Daniels, the guys who did the videos for Turn Down for What and things like that. These guys have brought to the screen just this amazing view of the multiverse. The story centers around a woman who runs a dry cleaner and the breaking down of her family unit. But as it breaks down, she's part of a nexus event that kind of sets off a center of center of the multiverse opening, so different realities playing out in front of you, different genres playing out in front of you. Michelle Yeoh from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings. She plays the put upon mother, wife, etc. Who absolutely, and different universes. She's a movie star. She kicks ass at kung fu. She has just an amazing presence on film, and it goes into breaking down. In addition to she being the only person in the universe who understands who's kind of the center point of all this universe, because she's trying to stop the bad thing from happening. The bad thing is basically her daughter, who also exists in every universe and is trying to basically tear everything down. And it's a real statement on the breakdown of the family unit. You get the return of Ke Huy Quan, who is Short Round or Data from the Goonies, getting him back as the kind of put upon husband. So. And of course, you just get some great kung fu sequences, and you get some great costume changes, and you get just a whole bunch of different films in this. And I mean, it is a solid just 2 hours of experience, because when you go to see this film, it's not just a movie. It is an absolute experience to sit in the theater and watch this film. And you do really need to go see it in the theater, because there's just so much to take in. There's comedy, and there's family trauma and things like that. It is a lot of film to take in, but good God, is it worth watching.
That is like the fifth or sixth person I trust who has now recommended that movie. And keep in mind, I wasn't like putting this movie off, but I was very much like waiting for streaming on this one. But it is on my list this week. So hopefully, and I got to look up the release date on it. I'm seeing 3 movies this week, and you'll find one of these things is a lot like the other. I want to see Northman, but I can't find the release date of when that movie comes out.
Yeah.
Sonic 2. I really want to watch Sonic 2. And Everything...
Everywhere All at Once.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. And these movies are happening this week. And I'm definitely going to see these 3 movies.
I'll really recommend going to Alamo Drafthouse for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and going for the pre-show, because it really it gives a good introduction to Daniels. It gives a good introduction to Michelle Yeoh and her career, and kind of gives kind of a breakdown of Asian cinema. And it's just, again, like I said, when you go for the movie experience, go for the theater that really caters to your movie experience. And for this particular film, definitely go see it in Alamo Draft.
Yeah, and honestly, we're not even sponsored by those guys, but Alamo just keep being the best. It used to be Studio Movie Grill in Alamo for me, but it's now 100% Alamo. Like I do prefer them. The problem is the one near me closed, so now I'm just kind of having to. It's a little bit out of my way, but I'll make an exception for this movie, because you're actually the second to say it to go to Alamo, because I was aware of the little pre-show somebody was telling me about it. This is on my list for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing this one.
Definitely. All right. That is our Just Seen It. Let's go ahead and get into our main topic today, and that is zombie movies. Oh, like I said, I am glad to discuss this with you today, sir, because I definitely want to bounce off the joy of horror. I definitely want to bounce off the joy of, like I said, this genre that we really like to dig into. So we're going to go ahead and start off with some of our recommendations, and then we're going to kind of go into a breakdown of what makes a good what makes a good zombie movie for us, what we really dig seeing on screen when it comes to the Undead Rising. So let's go ahead and get into the ones we like. We'll just kind of bounce this off each other, go 3, 2, 1, and or 1, 2, 3, however you want to do it, just whichever the 3 you want to go with, and we'll roll. So Mike, we'll go ahead and start with you. What's the first zombie movie you're going to make a recommendation?
I did mine in order from now all these are my literal top 3. So I'm going from 3 to 1, and I recommend every single one of these, but I had to kind of like Sophie's choice and figure out which one I'm going to put in which order. So my number 3 is 28 Weeks Later, the sequel to the movie 28 Days Later. It's most famous for kind of launching Cillian Murphy's career. 28 Weeks Later tells the story of a zombie outbreak 28 weeks after the initial outbreak. Most of the zombies have died out because of hunger and starvation. This is the story of an outpost that has the zombie invasion has been resparked, and it's also kind of famous for being one of the first kind of launching pads for Jeremy Renner. Now, don't get me wrong; he was already kind of doing well, but this is pre-Hawkeye Jeremy Renner, and I would put money on this is the movie that led to him becoming Hawkeye, which is probably his most famous role now. And I rewatched this last night, and this movie holds up, man. Some of the most iconic sequences I've ever seen in a zombie movie are from this movie. And the main actor, Enrique Lopez, there is a moment that I think is one of the greatest zombie movie moments, in my opinion, of this man running in an open field with zombies after him. Oh, also, 28 Weeks Later is kind of one of the first movies to introduce like super fast zombies, like just booking in zombies.
Yeah.
And this scene, shot from a crane, and I don't think drones were around yet, but just this man in an open field where the only thing between survival and death is your endurance. What an incredible sequence. I mean, this movie is zombie gold for cinema. Like, I've seen some shots from this movie kind of homaged in other ones, but I'm shocked more hasn't been taken from this movie and incorporated into other zombie films.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Did you want to go back and forth?
Yeah, we'll go back. Yeah, we'll go back.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go back.
So that's my 28 Weeks Later is definitely on my list, and that one actually on my list is probably the one I think most people have seen. I remember that being really big in 2007. So I'd be shocked if most people haven't seen it, but if you have not seen it,
be shocked because I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my gosh!
It's one that's on the list.
That's a definite must watch on that one.
Yeah.
It's probably the most mainstream on my list, but it is a incredible little horror movie, and you don't need to watch 28 Days Later. You can jump into this one, but both are good. Just both very different style of zombie movies.
Yeah. All right, I will go ahead and jump in. Like I said, I'm kind of gonna go on the sequence out of the ones that I recommend that I've sent to you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and start with Zombie 2, aka Zombie, Lucio Fulci's look at this. This is kind of the unofficial sequel to Night of the Living Dead, and man, it is unapologetically a brutal film.
Yes.
You get the opening sequence in New York, and you get the setup at the ship. Again, this is the zombie world. Zombies that are slowly starting to take over and infect major metropolitan areas. But we kind of go back to, I guess, someone looking into how the whole sequence gets started, and so we kind of go into. We kind of go into the jungles of South America and things like that. This film absolutely has some of the most brutal kills in horror movie history.
Yep.
The eye gimmick, I don't want to give too much away, but it's just you see it on screen and you see, oh no, they're not going to show this. Oh no, they're going to show it. Oh my God, they're showing it, and it hits. I'm even going to go back to that cover that we saw, because this is a really eye-catching poster. Just seeing the great gore gimmicks that come up with in this film. Again, it being Italian horror, it doesn't apologize. It doesn't stop for anything. But I have to get into possibly the greatest thing ever on screen: zombie versus shark. You can't get around the greatness of this scene. If you're gonna recommend, why we watch horror, why we watch it, it's because of this. This is why we watch it, because it's one of those debates like, what's gonna happen? And it's something that you've never seen on screen before. And you see it's just like, that makes sense. And it's beautifully done.
And I remember,
it's a real shark versus a zombie.
Yes. I remember seeing this many years ago, actually for a film class back in college. I had never even heard of the movie.
Yeah.
And
Lucio Fulci, the master of horror.
Yeah, I absolutely adored this movie.
Yes.
Now, I haven't seen it in a while, but that's what you say. There are some shots that I've seen homage in other movies where I'm like, that's from Zombie 2. Like, you're homaging that film.
Yeah.
It's like the pacing of some movies. Yeah. That I do actually remember that I had actually forgotten about until you mentioned the zombie shark. You're right. That was like,
and I mean, one of the longest man on fire scenes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I have never looked up how they've done that scene. Like it
Yeah.
clearly is a person on fire.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how they did it for that long.
Yeah, there's just so much of it. It's such an overwhelming zombie experience, but good God, is it fun? Yeah, if you're going to recommend zombie films to anyone, this is one that you absolutely have to see because it does take the rules of the Romero film and just absolutely puts it into brutal, uh, brutal sequence. It's a gorgeous, again, late '70s film. And I absolutely have to recommend it to anyone if you're going to recommend zombie films to anyone, and you want them to see the bloody horror, this is absolutely it.
And I didn't know. So Romero had nothing to do with it.
No,
Okay.
it's an unofficial sequel to Night of the Living Dead.
See, I've never known that. I thought it was a. Now, obviously, I know he didn't direct it, but I thought he produced it or something.
No.
Okay,
No.
I never knew that.
Yeah,
All right.
he had nothing to do with it. Nothing.
Okay.
It's just basically they marketed as they basically got into the marketing because the Italians kind of ripping off everything from American cinema. This is kind of how it comes about. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so,
All
yeah.
right. I'm
Yeah.
you re-added it back on my list. Is there streaming anywhere?
I'm not sure. I think it's on Shudder, or at least
I was gonna say the Bedman would say Shutter.
it might be on Shudder. I'm not entirely certain. I'll have to look that up while you go into your next one.
Okay. So for my number 2, now this is probably the least obscure one, probably on our list, is a 2008 Canadian film called Pontypool. Pontypool. And this is a story of a Canadian disc jockey, kind of like a late night call in host type guy, very Howard Stern ish. While he is getting reports, the whole film is done in the radio kind of call center. I don't know what you call that, kind of the sound room where they shoot the radio show, and it's you getting the zombie invasion from the point of view of somebody basically in one location. And that does sound boring, but I will tell you this. This has one of the most unique origins for a zombie outbreak. It is, without going too into detail, it is based on language. And it's more horrifying to me because it's very claustrophobic because there's nowhere to go. This building is completely shut down and it's all in this one room while they're trying to get the information, while they're trying to figure out what's going on, while you're getting in fairly realistic calls of like, yeah, somebody just got attacked on the street and now they're attacking other people. It makes it a little bit more horrifying because it plays in the absolute classic rule of your imagination is more horrifying than what you can imagine. So when you're not seeing this horrible zombie outbreak and just hearing witness reports being called into it, it really made this movie stand out in my mind. This is a really good movie, and it usually floats around between Netflix and Hulu. And a lot of people, I'd hate to say slept on it. It is a very, very small independent film. But when I saw this, everyone who sees it loves it. Because like I said, there's really no zombie film, as far as I can tell, done this way, where it's all from the point of view of somebody hunkered down in a location. I think maybe think of 2 or 3. Most zombie movies love to kind of show you the world and show you a lot of expansive environments.
Yeah, the closest I can think of is maybe Dawn of the Dead.
Bingo. And even then, that's a pretty big. That's the.
I'm sorry, Day of the Dead, where everything takes place in the underground bunker.
Okay, yeah, because Dawn's just the big mall.
Dawn is the mall.
Yeah, and even then, both versions, you got a mall. There's multiple environments in the mall. Mm-hmm. The bunker is the closest, and I think this is even tighter than this one because, like I said, their only connection to the outside world is people calling into the show to tell them. You're going to be on your edge of your seat as you start seeing, not only do you have the tension of the outside kind of get in, you also have the tension of just trying to figure out what in the world is going on. Yeah. Heavy recommend if you haven't seen this one.
Yeah, I've seen this one, and it's not one that I recommend to everyone because the pacing of it is so weird. It takes a minute to kind of get used to. Once you get into it, it really kind of flows well.
Yeah.
But it really does kind of leave you wondering what the hell is going on. Yeah. Which is a fine experience for this particular film because of the claustrophobia, because of all that. It really is not one I recommend for the inexperienced for the inexperienced
That's
horror
fair.
fan, but it is one that I'll recommend. Like, hey, if you want something that you've never seen before on screen, Pontypool is definitely one you go for.
And you're right, because the one thing as it just starts like a normal radio show. Like there's like, what am I watching? You are 100% correct. Keep that in mind when you watch it. It's like it starts to like, oh, it's a radio show. He's making fun of people, and it starts snowballing. I think it handles the snowball very well. It goes from kind of 0 to 3 to 5 to 100 very naturally. But that's why I've always had it high on my list. Top zombie movies.
Okay, and since you asked, Zombie 2 or Zombie, you can find on Pluto TV for free. You can also find on Amazon Prime.
That's
so
right.
So there you go.
All right.
All right, so my number 2 is just a sincere joy to watch, and that is The Return of the Living Dead. We kind of take the rules of the Romero film and we throw them out the window. We get basically a nihilistic look at punk rockers on a bad night in a graveyard/funeral home.
Yep.
And oh man, is this one just fun, because we do kind of, this is the introduction of brains into the zombie genre. You get just some great kind of nihilistic performances. You get just a heartbreaking scene with Clu Gallagher. You get a really kind of a human element in this one. It's a small cast, and of course the legendary Linnea Quigley as Trash in that graveyard sequence. We get big smiles on our faces as horror fans because, number one,
that shot is iconic. There's some iconic things in that film, and that's one of them.
Yeah, the Tar Man, literally fantastic. Like I said, there's great puppetry in this. There's great practical effects. There's wonderful violence. It's on the edge of your seat the whole time. It's well paced. It's well acted. It's well written, and it is a really fun zombie movie. And I mean, just send more paramedics, send more cops. Oh my God! Just because you have talking zombies, you have aware zombies, which again, it breaks the rules on them, but it's fine. It's fine if you don't subscribe and aren't necessarily a purist to the Romero rules.
And I'll tell you this: a lot of people, and I will say as a criticism to zombie fans, they're always purist to the Romero rules. But my argument has always been the John Landis argument. It's like, how do you kill a vampire? Steaks, sunlight. This, no, you kill them however you want because vampires aren't real. And I agree with that in this film because as a big creature guy, I love my creature. I love like monsters design. Tar Zombie is awesome.
Yes,
I love the design of it. It's this weird mimicry. I forget the actor who kind of performed some of the movement. Yeah. It is so amazing. Yes. I have watched that movie so many times. I adore this film.
Yeah, visually it's fun. The dialogue is fun. Everything in it is just fun. It is a great way to spend an hour and a half watching a horror film because it's really kind of perfect in the way that it's done. It does not get better than Return of the Living Dead, and and of course I could watch Linnea quickly all day because she's just spectacular. Sorry, as a horror fan, I gotta say that.
Well, it's just one of those things, like when you get deep dive into horror, you're gonna hit that movie. Yeah. And Tarman and that are just like those. There's so many iconic shots, and you think about how much you have to stand out to basically be a part of horror history with those two, that character and that sequence. Incredible. Love that movie.
All right, give us one more, Mike.
All right, my number one, and I recommend this to everyone. This was a pretty big hit globally. And I think a lot of Americans I've met have not seen it, but worldwide, this is like very common movie. Train to Busan. This is a South Korean movie from 2016, and this movie is pretty much one of the many reasons I love the zombie genre. It's about a father and son, and there is a big cast of characters on a train. While a zombie outbreak happens around the world around him in Korea, and it's this very human story about how far people are willing to go to survive when basically put their backs against the corner. This movie personifies really the underlying reason we'll go into why zombie movies have persisted so long, and this movie really bottles it up and shows the best elements of the genre. there are some moments in this movie that are gut wrenching, and there are some moments of tension where you're just like, oh my gosh, just like I was holding my breath. Like I haven't seen this movie in like a year or so, and every time I do watch the movie, even when I know what's happening, I'm on the edge of my seat. This movie was a worldwide hit. It has a animated prequel movie and a sequel, a big budget action sequel, which I saw, and it's called Peninsula. It's fine. Just watch Train to Busan. This is the one because it's a very human story about a father and a daughter with a great, very memorable cast of characters. I still remember some of these characters and their motivations to this day, and how gut wrenching some of their deaths are, which you just don't get in many just movies. Most movies I watch and I just kind of forget, but Train to Busan, it will stick with you. It's a powerful movie.
Yeah, there's great action. There's great sequences. That again, you go into the claustrophobia of a train, and then you go to the train stations, and just every moment of the film just feels fraught with danger, and it's just so well constructed. And again, you're right. There are some absolutely heart-wrenching human scenes in this that are just absolutely spectacular. That South Korean horror isn't for everyone, but this film is just definitely one that everyone really should see, because of that human element, and because of that really terrific violent element. And again, just the action sequences, the way that they plot them out is just spectacular. My God.
It sticks with me to this day. One of my iconic zombie shots.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I put it on par with Tar Man going brains. When they're in this one of the train cars, and there's hundreds of zombies hanging on to the end of the car, and it's dragging down the car. So they're like trying to get this pile of zombies off, while also not touching the pile of zombies. Incredible.
They do. Yeah, they just get it done so well.
This is the movie I'd actually say this. And I would recommend this one number one. But if you ever want to really get people into zombie movies, I recommend this. World War Z is a pretty popular one, and the Dawn of the Dead remake. Because the original, which is the stronger movie in my opinion, is just a little bit slower pace for modern audiences.
Yeah.
But like I can show my mom and dad the like Train to Busan, World War Z, and Dawn of the Dead remake, and they're like, okay, well, what else is there more for these stories?
Yeah, we're gonna get into that, but let me go ahead and get this last one out of the way because I got to get this recommendation. I said, I talk about the Romero rules and things like that, which is the shambling zombies existing in the world of the dead, things like that. I didn't choose a Romero film. I chose the film that takes it all on, and that, of course, is Edgar Wright's Shaun of the Dead.
Absolute classic.
Everyone who has seen this film absolutely loves it because it's just spectacularly funny. Two just basic London losers surviving amidst the zombie apocalypse and they do it the only way they know how, which is by going to the pub and waiting for the whole thing to blow over, which it does not. Yet you've got a great introduction to two guys who are very, very funny from Spaced. That's Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. You have Edgar Wright's kind of really initial dip into filmmaking with this a romantic comedy with zombies. That's literally the tagline. But like I said, the zombies are well done. The kills are spectacular. The fights are just hysterical. The use of the soundtrack is amazing. Yeah. Just everything in this film makes you want to see the next second of it. And again, we're going to get into this here in a little bit, but it's just like, how does the slacker survive in this world?
Oh, it's so great.
And because it isn't it isn't like the guy from Special Forces surviving, and it isn't the guy with the most guns, and it isn't the rich villain. It is basically just a bunch of London slackers just, okay, we now have to deal with this.
Yep.
And we deal with it by trying to avoid it. And you can't. And you get the great love story, and you get some just great parodies of zombie sequencing and things like that. It's just fun. It's just a really, really fun movie. Picking up his mom, things like that. You do the things that you would normally do. It's what you would do in a zombie apocalypse.
Yep.
I mean, if you don't, necessarily know how to survive the zombie apocalypse, this is exactly what happens. You torment it, you pose it, and then like, oh, we have to get away from this thing because they're nuts.
And I will say, it also spawned. I was just thinking about probably the world's like, oh crap, there's a Halloween party tomorrow. Guess I'll be Shaun the Dead. Put on my.
You got red on you.
It's an absolute classic. Yes. I don't think there's anyone who knows. I would say it's probably one of the top 40 horror movies, if only because of how kind of it's a well told story. It's funny. It still holds up.
Yeah, and it doesn't give you anything new, but it gives you a new way of looking at it, and that's what makes it fun.
It seems weird. I don't think I said with no hesitation. If I'm listing maybe the top 50 horror, it would be up there.
Yeah.
In horror comedies, I think that's number one for me.
Totally.
We're talking about horror comedy.
I can. There's a definite argument to make for that.
Yeah. It's easy top 3 in that subgenre.
Totally.
And it's that's another movie you can just show to anyone and you can enjoy it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those films that if it's on, I'll throw it on in the background because no matter where you pop into that film, it's just gold.
It's what introduced me to Simon Pegg, and I've followed his career ever since. To the point I'm a big fan of the Amazon show The Boys, and that character in the comic book was based on Simon Pegg because of this movie. Nice. And that's why they have him make a cameo in the TV show The Boys.
Nice.
Absolutely adored it. I'm gonna rewatch it. I actually own that movie on DVD.
Yep, it's one of those that you got to go back and watch. I was lucky enough to go see it on its opening week here in theaters, and it was great. I absolutely love it. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get into topic B of the show, which is basically what makes a good zombie film. We're gonna kind of build up through this as we run down the last part of the show. What makes a good zombie film for us? Let's go ahead and kind of get into. Let's go ahead and start off with where you started in the topic, and that's the human element.
Yeah. So for me, and this is the genius of this genre, because at its core, I love creature features, and zombies are a classic creature. But a creature is only as good as what it's hunting or what it's going after, and that's the human element. I have to be asking myself, do I care about these characters, and do I want them to succeed? And when I say the human element, I want these characters to make decisions that we would have made in that situation. That's why I think Train to Busan and 28 Weeks Later are such great movies, because they are putting people in harrowing situations when these are just normal people. I think both movies do a good job of showing you people who are doing their day job yesterday and now are fighting for their lives, plus others today. And if you don't have the human element and these are just meat sacks being plowed through, then what's even the point of the creature? And I think zombies they really touch on at the core how we're kind of afraid of each other. Crowded spaces. That's kind of the intrinsic fear of zombies. And I think that's when you're based on an intrinsic fear of humans, you really have to have that human element for a good zombie movie.
Right. And I mean, I think that's kind of what made Walking Dead a success. I think that's, what kept films like Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead and things like that because it is the horror of humanity amidst the horror of all of it, because they are stories of survival. I mean, it's why Shaun of the Dead is so much fun, because it is, the most human guys in history, having to survive this. And then it kind of challenges you, like, how would you get along in this world and try and survive as best you can? And you kind of see, like in Walking Dead, the desperation of these people, and you see the progress of it as it goes. Walking Dead was great for that, and it made for fascinating television before it kind of wore out its welcome.
Yep, it 100% did. It just that's a whole nother conversation. As someone who watched literally 10 years of Walking Dead.
And I'm sure that you read the comic too, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I finished the comic. A lot of people don't even realize comic finished years before the show's still going. Both the comic book and I mean, zombies work in almost every medium. I play zombies. I play against zombies in video games. I mean, they worked so well they got overplayed to the point people just don't do them anymore. And one day, look up how Robert Kirkman almost didn't get Walking Dead at the lie and say it was going to be aliens, but he just wanted to tell a zombie story. And because they're so kind of easy to do and their rules are so nebulous, a lot of people can tell those stories. It kind of touches on one of my other points. This is what make Walking Dead. The core of Walking Dead is having grounded and relatable characters.
Yeah.
And if you don't have grounded and relatable characters, why should I care if they succeed or not? Train to Busan and Shaun of the Dead are masters of that because you're really rooting for these guys. And Shaun, he's just a dude. He's just a guy. Like, what makes it to, you've mentioned it several times, Simon Pegg so great in that movie, and what's his name? Frost? Nick Frost. We know these two types of guys in our life. Everyone meets one of those two types of guys. Yeah. And you're kind of rooting to see how they get through this situation with just what's essentially the shirts on their back.
Exactly.
So that to me it really always is going to come down to the human element for these movies. I did kind of nose on like some of our lists. It was amusing to me seeing that we're both very clear fans of zombie pictures, but we both come at it from different directions. Kind of the more comedic, fun element. I like the more serious, darker commentary on society element.
And that's something that I'll definitely get into here. I'll go ahead and jump into that, which is the comedy versus the horror. Yeah. Because I love comedy horror. Yeah. And when we get into kind of the discussions of how these people wound up here, for me I like it like a Bugs Bunny cartoon because you either get through it by either being really smart or you get through it by being really lucky.
Just dumb luck, yeah.
Because if you do something dumb, bad things happen. Mm-hmm. And it is that correlation, cause, and effect that makes it such interesting viewing. And like I said, I will go for the comedy to alleviate the gravity of the horror. It doesn't take me out of it, and a lot of folks who don't like comedy horror will argue that it takes them out of it, and they don't like it. But the thing it's the thing is that comedy is clever. Comedy is all about being quick-witted and on your feet and things like that. And I absolutely have to respect the comedy of it and the joy in it, because without that comedy element, it's just dragging you down and dragging you down and dragging you down. And, getting into that escape, it's just like, okay, I want to enjoy the smartest guys in the room surviving this. And that's why I go for the comedy.
I've said this about Jordan Peele, is timing and comedy are brothers in arms because of timing. Yeah. Wait, did I say it right? Horror and comedy are brothers in arms because of timing. Right. And this is why I think Jordan Peele so naturally transitioned, because he's a very funny guy, and he can probably translate that. He's always been a horror fan, but I'm saying I would argue those skill sets naturally go into each other. Yeah. And you're right. I've actually been more fortunate to meet horror fans. I've met so many in my lifetime who are usually either they love horror comedy or like, it may not be my favorite subgenre of horror, but they respect it because there's usually a lot of good stories there. Why would you cut yourself off the foot and avoid so many great horror comedy? But you have your preference. And to your point, there's some bangers. What was the one by Peter Jackson? The
Dead Alive.
Dead Alive is
it's one that almost waited on my list because it is a great zombie comedy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, does it go out there? I mean, I've literally shown this to people and they go, when does it stop? And it's just, it doesn't.
It doesn't. That's what makes it so great.
Dead Alive is so good.
How can you see Dead or Alive and Night of the Living Dead and be like, these are bad movies? These are really well done, great little movies because they have a purpose and they laser focus on it and knock it out of the park.
Yeah, and you absolutely get that. It goes to that old line: dying is easy, comedy is hard. Yeah, and horror can be easily done because, like I said, you show people getting hurt, people understand it. It's just that easy element. But when you have it with quick wit and things like that, it makes the pacing interesting, and it shakes up with the way you watch the film. And like I said, if I go in enjoying it and entertaining and then seeing something horrific, it takes me on that ride. And that's why I go for it every time.
Yep. No,
Right.
again, these are all really banger movies. I'd go back and write down our list because I've seen all the movies we've mentioned here,
Yep.
and all great. 2 thumbs up on all these, and
All right.
just different.
All right, give me something else that you like.
The number one thing is not. I'm sorry, my number one was a human element, but a big element for me is that zombie media does very well, and I really do love it when they do this. Is the environment they take place in. There's great when you look at Train to Busan, and you look at an environment you see every day, like a train station, or you look at Dawn of the Dead, the mall, which malls are kind of dead, but you look at a mall, things that are very everyday, and it flips it on its ear. It makes you think about, how would I survive in this situation? What weapons would I use? Where would I hide? Where would I set up? I love the idea that the zombie genre can make you look at the real world differently. And very few genres in film can really do that. Or in the subgenre of zombies kind of has mastered that. Like World War Z does that. You get that with The Walking Dead. 10 seasons of that. I mean, they turn to prison, and it's like, well, how do you look at a prison differently? How do you look at a farm differently? So I love re-looking at environments presented in zombie movies with a new kind of eye set. Because how would you handle it if a creature was in in an office building, so to speak?
Yeah.
And that's one element I really do love in zombie movies, and creature features in general tend to do that very well, and zombie movies are no exception.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're talking about environment, like I said, Walking Dead has really done that really well.
Yeah.
And also it is part of that human element. How does the human survive in this portion of it? How do you get by? How would you get by? How would you survive? How would you escape? It gets you thinking about how, if you're in this situation, how do you get out? And getting to see, how people adapt, how people accept, how people fight, how people get trapped. It does really make a strong case. And I mean, you get, I think my favorite, when you're trying to describe what environment means, take a look at the opening sequence of Zombieland. The first 5 minutes as it runs under the credits. That's great. How every bit of it adapts, because you have everything from escaping the store to the birthday parties to just fighting kid zombies, fighting adult zombies, fighting fat zombies. Just amazing. Zombieland just does it really well. That opening sequence is just spectacular when it comes down to just showing environments, because they're environments that you're in every day, and how would you get out of it? Again, it goes back to that human element. How would you escape this?
Zombieland would have definitely got an honorable mention for me. Mm-hmm. That's another really fun movie.
Yeah.
I think I just always kind of forget about it because I didn't care for the sequel. But that opening sequence of Zombieland, and a movie I don't like and don't recommend, but it's amazingly well shot because of Zack Snyder, Army of the Dead, has a similar opening sequence where it's just like, look at how the life was normal and see how it just completely collapses and flips on its ear.
Yeah.
And Zombieland, I think, has an amazing opening because of that. And then let's not forget the finale with the what was it, a carnival or a fair? The titular Zombieland, so to speak, and that just makes you look at the fairgrounds differently. Like a lot of these things.
How do you get an amusement park? Well, that happens. You wouldn't go, but here's what happens when you do.
Yes. Oh, just great. Yeah. So that's definite for me. Yeah. I love that. And like I said, that goes to the underlying thing of just horror in general. I like when it kind of changes my mind on looking at like normal things I would have seen. How would I look at them differently now?
Yeah. All right. So the next part for me is traditional rules, because you have, I am not opposed to the different kind of zombies, because if you're a Romero purist, you don't want to see your zombies running, and because zombies don't run.
Yeah,
they're basically just slow, shambling. They never stop. They never stop being hungry. But I mean, rules are there made to be broken.
Yep.
Which is what makes Return of the Living Dead so much fun because it takes the shambling zombie and it gives it a brain, it gives it a consciousness. You have the running zombie from 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later, because they're not exactly zombies, they're viral, but they're viral patients. But again, like I said, it takes it up to that next level. Or you take Reanimator, which is another one that almost made this list, but it's not necessarily really a zombie movie, but it is reanimating dead flesh, and you have strong zombies and powerful zombies, and you introducing different ways for them to come in. It really kind of depends on how pure you want them, because if you go with again, Night of the Living Dead, which is absolutely spectacular classic, and you must see it as it is an essential film. And it also kind of takes on, like I said, it is the human element in the result, but also the Romero films are also clever satire.
Yeah,
all of them. They take on, race relations. It takes on consumerism. It takes on reality shows. It all takes on a different kind of satire and format, and it is a satire in all of them because it's the traditional world flipped upside down, and how would you survive it? If you go with if you're the purist, I think you kind of shut yourself out if you don't give these films a chance. Then introduce comedy or introduce the different kinds of zombie, because I think it just makes for a more interesting villain.
No, 100%. And I was gonna say, I've never like Night of the Living Dead and 28 Days Later. Pretty much shot in the foot rules for me. But I will say, I think the only core element I've always said about those rules is it has to be infectious. Because arguably, I've heard some people say Frankenstein's a zombie. Fair enough, but it has to be like kind of a spread. That underlying current of like being added to the group, and causing chaos. Like I said, Night of the Living Dead has rules, but they're, as far as I know, I don't think their rules or anything pre-established for me as a zombie movie. I think, again, that shot where he's like bringing more people, more ambulance. So like that's a
send more cops.
Send more cops.
It's not necessarily that it takes away from it, and the horror fans will debate it, and that's what makes it fun, is that you can debate it, because just like for some people it ruins it. For others who like the comedy, it makes it perfect because it makes for a more interesting villain.
Yeah, and just like the rules, like I said, 28 Days Later and the Crazies, both versions, people say those aren't zombies. I kind of argue they are, because it's spreading and making
you're reanimating the undead and sending them out to eat humans.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's a zombie. Yeah, it's clear as day.
Yeah. All right, give me one more thing.
I really those were a lot of for me, were the biggest things. But at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to, can I put myself in that role, and can I see myself? For me, that's what really brings me to that genre, why I've loved it for so much. This is why I really like zombie video games. If we have any video game players, Telltale's The Walking Dead it's a choose your own adventure game where you have to decide what you're going to do in this situation. That game really stuck with me because it finally did put someone in the situation of, what would I do in this situation? That's why I like zombie games so much. You have like, hey, this person's been bit. Do you try to help them? Do you try to like get rid of the arm? You don't know how this virus works. I love the idea of thinking, how would I get out of this situation? That's an element for me personally, what I like in creature features and horror genres. I know characters will make stupid decisions because of just the nature of the beast. It's a trope of the genre. But I love when characters make common sense decisions, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. That's another trope in zombies. There's always that one guy who's too smart for his own good and gets punished for it. And I love that. That to me is another really through line of why I love this genre. Both comedy, cheesy, serious, commentary on society, all of them. That's another real through line for me. So how would I exist in that situation?
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, definitely. Like, how do you get through? And again, it adds to that human element. And one more human element film that I'll add, because I should have thought of it earlier. I want to add in One Cut of the Dead, because it's not necessarily a zombie film, but it is a way of looking at how zombie films get made, and more importantly, how films get made. And really, One Cut of the Dead is remarkable in the fact that it starts out first with a 45-minute one-shot horror film, and then it turns into something completely different. It really is worth seeing.
I saw that because of you on a many moons ago fulfillment, and I finally got to see it because it was made available to buy. I think it was a Shudder exclusive or something, and I was able to rent it. And it is great. I almost gonna say, if you like zombie movies, you'll get something out of it. If you're a cinephile, you're gonna love it. It is a movie for movie lovers.
So here's the last one that I want to hit on as we close out the show. Is it overdone? Have we just reached the peak of it? And unfortunately for me, the answer is yes, because there's just so much out there. There's Disney Channel shows. There's Peak Toys. There's the Jim Jarmusch film, The Dead Don't Die, which, spectacular cast, but it's just so much. It really has been done to death, and they keep on reanimating it because it's just so easy to go to the well. And that's sad, because this is a genre that we as horror fans enjoy. And while, like I said, I do love the comedy aspect of it, sometimes it can just be far too much and just too easy of a gig to go to. I want to recommend that you go for the classics and expand out if that's your gig. But like I said, for me at this point, it's just way too much. I am glad to kind of see this one go. I stop with the zombies. Just please stop.
The problem I have, because I agree with your statement, and it's that mentality is how we almost didn't get The Walking Dead. Because like I said, Robert Kirkman almost didn't get it because zombies were played out. I think what the problem is there's so much trash to get to the diamonds now. Yeah. They used to be a lot easier. And horror movies are some of the easiest horror movies to make. But it feels like if you have a specific subgenre you like, it's pretty easy to get to the gems of that genre. Yeah. Zombie movies, again, I really hated Army of the Dead. Mm-hmm. And it added to the pile of hundreds of zombie. And by the way, it's in multiple mediums. You have zombies in video games. You have zombie in comic books. You have zombies in every single medium. Oh my goodness, it's just a beat down. And like you said, it's you really gotta. The problem I have is you have to work harder to get to the good stuff. And you can say about anything, but I'm like, this is entertainment. It really does feel like you can waste a lot of time trying to find something that's really good. And the zombie genre really has that bad.
Yeah. I think that if you're going to go to the friends that you trust with horror and ask them for their gems, because you can go through and waste a lot of time going through it if you're not inexperienced. If you're not experienced, find your friends who know you, who like horror, and ask them, what should I check out? If you're looking for a recommendation, because everyone is going to come for you with something different. Because like I said, you're going to recommend something a little heavier. I'm going to recommend something a lot lighter. Yep. Overall, we get to what we like because this is a genre that we ultimately love, and we hate when it's done badly, like any horror fan. There's so much content out there when it comes to zombies that it really looks and feels overwhelming. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to talk video games, look to The Last of Us, which is gorgeously done. If you're going to look to television shows, the first 3 seasons of The Walking Dead is spectacular. If you're going to look to the films, then you definitely go with the classics, and everyone who watches film must check out Night of the Living Dead, because it's where it started. It's really well done. It's a great statement on race. It's beautifully shot, and again, it will lead you down the path to where you go. Just like I said, listen to the folks who know this, who have seen it and have bared through some of the worst of it and experienced the best of it, and they will give you their recommendations. This is one where you talk with your friends and you get their opinions, because everyone is going to come at you with something different and hopefully recommend you something good. All right, Mike, let's go ahead and get into shout-outs. Mike, who are you shouting out to?
All right, well, I want to shout out to Mom, my dad. Hey, how's it going, guys? by coworkers Garrett, Beto, and Jesus at Keith's Comics. Also, want to I think we're both going to shout out Vega Bomber and Film Samurai. And anyone else watching today, thank y'all for enjoying us just gushing about the horror subgenre of zombies.
Yep. And of course, I do need to go ahead and shout out everyone here on DallasOnAir.com. Do check out here in a little bit. We're going to get into we're going to get into Cole Houston. We're going to get. I don't know if we're doing Rancor Pit or if we're doing Isle of Toys today. I should really find out because I've got to host it. But I would just want to, like I said, shout out all our friends here on Dallas on Air. I do definitely want to shout out our friends, the Film Samurai, and of course the Vega Bomber, who again is taking today off to go enjoy the family and things like that. And like I said, we'll have him back in studio very soon. And if I can just pull this up, I am trying to get to our normal shout outs here. Give me 1 second here. Like I said, I do want to go ahead and shout out Eddie Medina and Colleen Medina. Do check out their shows, Figments, the Unexplained Mysteries podcast, and of course, Fan and Wife, 2 great shows here on DallasInter.com. Check out Say Something, check out Best for Business, check out all our friends here. And where is that? Good God. I wish I had this pulled up. Like I said, this is live television, kids.
Right? I think I have it pulled up.
There you are. Hang on 1 second.
Got it?
I think we're almost here. Yeah, go ahead and get. Yeah, go ahead and give a traditional.
Want to give some shout outs to Brandy and Barry Austin, Sean Presley, Lauren Wiedauer. My apologies. Tristan Frazier, and Harry Thomas. Also, Prim, Troy Ross, Daniel Mesa, Freddie. How you pronounce that?
Daniel Meza.
Daniel Meza, yeah. Freddie, Eddie Medina, Cole Houston, Stephanie Crane, and like we said before, Film Samurai and Vega Bomber.
Yep. Also, Mad Mel, Scott, Lenny, and Sandra, and Harry Thomas. So, guys, thank you for tuning in to us. Thank you for being with us today here on this ride. Like I said, the Vega Bomber will be back here real soon. But in the meantime, we do want to thank you for watching Fulfillment. And stay tuned here to DallasOnAir.com for more stuff. And we are rolling out. Deuces.
Deuces, guys.